Hello and welcome back to Think Shank, where we talk about questions about sports that aren't raised nor explored enough. As far as we can tell, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Think Shank. You can email us at thethinkshank@gmail.com. I'm Skyler Reinhardt, your personal NBA junkie, philosopher, tour guide, or whatever else you'd like. We're still doing it for clout, sad to say. So, let me know. Let me know what you'd like. You can find me on Twitter at Reinhardt Skyler. That's ReinHardt. Skyler, Skyler, no A's. And then Instagram at Skyler Sam, Sam Reinhardt. Hi. It is Saturday, February 10th, doing this one at night again. Not that you asked, but personal life over here. I guess there's just a million things going on. I know I put out last pod about over a week ago, just a little bit over it, but, the Super Bowl's tomorrow. There was a new Kanye album yesterday, just dropped. I really need to play through that, right after I record this, probably. There was nonstop chatter about the NBA trade deadline that was 2 days ago on February 8th on that Thursday. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I know you're just probably inundated with takes and thoughts and reactions and freakouts. Hopefully by now you have trust in me that I'm going to bring a relatively level-headed, analytical approach to kind of breaking down and analyzing these trades for what they are. But I think most notably, I just want to say hi and thank you. And we are, in fact, real. I'm a real person. I am trying out the video podcasting thing. I just bought a nice camera, air quote. I haven't had a nice camera since high school. And even then, that was just for photos. So it turns out videography is its own complicated thing. As somebody who has done electronic music production for 8 years, I'm realizing now it's kind of weird that I'm just now learning what Adobe Premiere Pro is or CapCut and whatever. And this is kind of just a fun new field to learn a bunch about. So I don't know a ton about the post-processing process. Obviously, I'm going to produce this myself, so we're going to find out. But aim is to get this out, get the video part out as well as the audio, merge them together well. If I don't in time, rest assured I'm going to tackle it eventually. But it's really exciting. So welcome to my humble abode, if you can see it, in the future. So today, plan is I want to break down my top trades in the order of what I see as perceived impact as far as overall outcomes for the league. I've got them in two different buckets. And specifically, I want to break down the guys or players inside of the trades. And I took the approach of looking at their positions, performance, experience, strategic use cases, and overall takeaways for their new teams. So coming up is what I'm calling the Trade Tower. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Alrighty, so group number one of the Trade Tower, it is called Take Cover. These are really significant trades, at least relative to the overall pie of trades that happened, or non-trades, if you will. Non-trades are kind of hard to evaluate, I suppose. So take cover. These are the big ones, and I'm sure everybody knows where I'm going to dive in first here. Go Knicks. As somebody who grew up in New York State, just very, very far from the city, it still weirdly, warms me to see just struggling franchises for virtually my entire conscious life have hope. And if I may, just have a lot of hope very quickly. I don't know what secret potion the Knicks front office and executives started taking. But it's exciting. So the recap of their big trade, at least close to the deadline, obviously, earlier in the season, they did the OG Anunoby trade, sent out RJ Barrett, as well as Emmanuel Quickley, over to my Raptors. That needs its own video. Extremely underwhelming so far, but as a overall team on the Raptors, but we'll get there. And they also did these. So we have Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks coming in, both of them from Detroit. And in exchange, the Knicks sent out Quentin Grimes, Malachi Flynn, Fournier, Archie, and 2 second-round picks. So I'm mostly going to be talking about the inbound guys, but I just want to say really quickly, I feel like Grimes is the most controversial New York Knicks guy in recent memory for, in my opinion, no reason. His on-court, off-court differentials are, like, not amazing. That's completely valid, specifically on defense, which obviously is the reason Tibbs just did not trust him. I just felt like the kid played really, really hard. And obviously, he was in their first round draft pick group of whatever is in, there's all the buzz and whatever. It's just one of those moments or one of those things where most of the games I tapped into and I'm watching and I'm seeing this kid play, he's playing his fucking heart out. And I mean, granted, he's, not, a lockdown defender like OG, but, I just felt like so much of the discourse I'd see online about this guy is just nonstop crucifying this kid. I'm just like, dude, he is at minimum like playing his heart out for a relatively undeservingly enormous market of New York with a team that is just apparently not the most competent for super long. So anyway, I'm really glad he's out of there. It's giving me RJ Barrett flashbacks as well, where, the spotlights are just bright. That is how it is. And I'm just excited to see what he gets up to over in Detroit, a.k.a. Azkaban. So, Bojan, Alec. Really, really exciting. Why? Well, I'm going to start with Bojan, and that's because I just think he has a great name and great track record, and I think he's just a super underrated guy in general, and I'm going to tell you why. So first off, positionally, I never looked this up before this video. This is me being totally honest. If someone were to tell me that Bojan is 6'8", I would have squinted my eyes and looked at him a little funny like this. If I get the video out, you'll see the face I'm making. He can actually run and is super. I mean, obviously all these guys are athletic, but I don't know. He just always seemed. It's probably the degree of guard skills he has, but that's just kind of surprising to me. Also, I don't know if I totally believe it, but he's a big boy. So primarily plays small forward, power forward. So in colloquial, that's your 3 and 4. So playing your 4 is, you're guarding some big guys, and I'll get into that later on. So how much of each recently? I found this interesting. So in 2024, as in this exact season, 25% of the time he was playing small forward. So 75% of the time he was playing power forward. So primarily one guy below center. The year before that, it was 30-70, so 70% power forward. And I really want to contextualize these things as much as I can for you guys. So the reason I start off with the positions is just to contextualize among the roster. So 3/4 of the time he's playing at the 4, and that would put him in and among the Julius Randles, the Precious Achuas, taking a look at the Knicks lineup. And then at the small forward position, that would put him alongside of OG as well as Josh Hart. So, most of the time it seems like he, would functionally slide in for Randle and Precious. Precious, by the way, is playing, like, really, really solid. Hardenstein was out tonight. against their game against Indiana, and you felt that a ton that whole game. But I just want to give props to Precious. I mean, he was just stepping in as a center, and he had just no business doing that, and actually played well. Cool. So Bojan's bigger than you think. Primarily plays at the 4. He's going to be right alongside Julius and Precious. I found the availability stuff interesting, too. He's only played in 28 games out of 51 this year, and he's started 27 of those 28. When he has played, though, he's averaging 33 minutes a game, which is pretty solid, obviously. And so how's he been doing? Well, this year, he is putting up 23.5 and 2.5, 3.5 boards, excuse me, and then 2.5 assists, 41% from 3, 78% from free throws. Also, side note, if you're shooting over 40% from 3, but you're shooting under 80% from free throws, I'm a little bit surprised by that. But the takeaway there is, I think people expect his assist number to be higher. That 2.5 at the end is assists, and I mean, this is just on Detroit. I'm sorry, Monty, but let's be real. We didn't have a ton of guys finishing a lot of passes as far as generating assists go. You have to actually make a bucket. So that is that. But obviously a phenomenal shooter there. I want to, going back to the positions quickly. To put this in context again, with his height and how he's going to fit in positionally, when he plays small forward, he is actually 46% from 3, and he is 61% effective field goal percentage. So that 46%, that is in the 95th percentile of all small forwards, and then the effective field goal he's in the 86th percentile. And that is for small forwards. And then power forwards, he is shooting 40% against, other power forwards. And that drops down to 72nd percentile. And then it's 55% for his effective field goal, which brings him to the 60th percentile. So he shoots worse when he plays power forward, which makes sense because his defenders are actually his size. But I mostly just want to call out the small forward thing. He still can play and defend other teams' small forwards, because back to how I started this whole thing off, he looks like a really big guard. Like, his guard skills are there. He seems shifty enough, right? And then when he is on offense, I mean, he is just clobbering. He's shooting right over these other guys. Like, he's 6'8". I mean, imagine if he was shooting over his now teammate, Josh Hart, who's only 6'5". Like, it makes sense why his shooting percentages are a lot higher up there. How is he on defense? I found this really, really interesting. So this year, 2024, he's minus 5.6 overall. And how you kind of get there is they are 7.8 points per possession better on, or their opponents are 7.8 points per possession better when he's on the floor. So that puts him in the 4th percentile, not great. And then his opponents are shooting 3.5% better in terms of their effective field goal percentage, which puts him at the 6th percentile. He hasn't been in the upper half, so 50th percentile or above, since the 2019 to 2020 season. So I did a bad job of kind of giving that overview, but basically Detroit has been appreciably worse with him on the floor on the defensive end, and that trend has held true since the 2020 season. I didn't know that. And I think that gets swept under the rug a bit with his secondary playmaking and all this other shit, and especially when he was on Detroit when literally nobody else knew how to dribble a basketball. People didn't care. So definitely really good three-point shooter, spacing the floor. As you can tell, he's definitely an offensive-leaning player. But his defense, not awesome. I'm curious to see, how this kind of goes, especially with the power forward stuff, because let's be real, they're definitely starting Julius Randle, and then it becomes a question of, the three. I think you still want OG there. So it's more than likely Bojan is going to be coming off the bench, and he did today during his debut. And I just want to touch quickly on Burks. He was on the Knicks like 2 years ago, which is kind of funny. His overall plus minus is literally 0 for the season. I did find it interesting that the Pistons' free throw rate went up almost 6 points or 6 whatever instances in this context when he was on the court than off. So as far as his free throws, free throw attempts go, I think that's a pretty good sign, especially for a very zealous and animated Knicks team. I wish that they got to the line a little bit more. And so I really like that. Obviously, he will be the backup to Jalen Brunson, and you press fast forward into the playoffs. Burks, or rather Brunson, he's not really going to be coming out that much. But we've seen Burks this year. I think he was shooting something absurd, like 43% in the year of 2024 before getting traded. So, and he's lit up some teams back when he's on Detroit too. So he can catch fire, basically. He's also bigger as well than people think. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5". Obviously Brunson's a lot smaller, but that's cool. So he'll be steady. What are the takeaways then for Bojan? What is he really bringing? Well, like we said, offensive flexibility, can play the 3 or the 4. My verbiage in my own brain, a little bit clickbaity, but it kind of makes sense to me, is he's kind of like the OG of offense. I mean, he can basically initiate actions, again, at 6'8", and be a spot-up guy, and rebound, and do virtually anything in that frame, which is really interesting. And so specifically when you talk about positions, that the small forward, power forward thing, those are really just indicators for what positions are you guarding. As we all know on offense, positions are really ephemeral and like dynamic, meaning Jokic is a center, but he is initiating almost every single action Denver does when he has the ball. But on defense, when you're responding to the opponent's offense, offensive initiation, you really don't have as much dexterity or dynamism in terms of the roles and positions. So while Bojan can play the 3 or the 4, that just means that's who he's guarding, is the 3 and the 4. What does that mean in the context of the Eastern Conference? Well, we know his defense is not amazing, and these are just, just for context and interest, these are some of the small forwards and power forwards he would be guarding. So for the 3, you have Tatum and Brown, of course, on Boston. On Milwaukee, you have Pat Connaughton and Jay Crowder. Cleveland, you have Okoro and Strus. What I find really interesting is, out of all of those guys, of the top 3 teams, in my opinion, I just did 3, so Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland right now, as far as the standings go. Tatum's huge. Tatum's like 6'9", too, 6'9", 6'10". Brown's like 6'7"-ish, and then everyone else is like 6'6" or smaller, so I kind of like that matchup at 3 for Bojan. And then you go over to power forwards. You have on Boston, Horford and Hauser. Milwaukee, Giannis and Portis. And then Cleveland, Dean Wade and Mobley. A bit different, wouldn't you say? Especially for somebody with a known not amazing defensive track record. Again, it is extremely likely Bojan is going to be coming off the bench, so it's not very likely he's going to get absolutely roasted by Giannis, although Giannis is out for blood this season and can easily play like 48 minutes a night and never wear down or never get hurt. But I just want to paint a clear picture here. So probably matching up with your Hausers, your Portises, your, Dean Wades, which I really don't mind when you think about his defense as well as offense. Offensively, I think he's going to be fine. He can definitely score on any of those guys. But defensively, I think Portis, that the really bigger, more physical guys are definitely going to be an issue. So something to monitor. So that's just position, aka who he will be guarding on the other side. There's also, when you think about the OG of offense, offensive flexibility, there is the rotations, so starting or not starting. So just for context here, your starters for the Knicks in the playoffs most likely are going to be Brunson, DiVincenzo, OG, Randall, and then Robinson when he comes back finally. And then your bench unit is going to be Alec Burks, Josh Hart, Bojan, Precious Achiuwa, and then Hartenstein. Obviously, they're going to whatever. I mean, that's like 8 guys, whatever. You'll be mix and matching. But the idea is here to just show, that's a lot of good players. They really, really needed that kind of ball handling and secondary playmaking on offense. And then you think about how Hartenstein's been playing as well as Precious recently, especially with Hartenstein being injured, as well as Josh Hart flying around all over the place. They could probably clean up some of the mess there. But again, these are even just in bench minutes too. So that's what it would look like rotationally. And then the role part, which I touched on before, even when he's physically on the court, what is his role when he is there, specifically on offense? Again, defense is pretty universal, but offensively, he doesn't have to always initiate, right? I mean, he can literally just spot up, space the floor, which the Knicks really, really need. If they decide to put him out there for, OG or whatever, Randall gets in foul trouble, whatever. I trust him significantly more to make shots from the outside than Randall, for example. And then what happens when you space the floor? Well, you have more space for this guy named Jalen Brunson to get into the paint, where he is just annihilating teams right now. So that is really good. Ultimately, his defense will be, in my opinion, the determinant. Not only, what position he will be playing, but how much he'll be playing, how much of an impact he'll even get, specifically at that power forward position. But, provided Randall is healthy, I think it's going to be fun for him. And so, half step back now, thinking about the Knicks overall. In my opinion, the Knicks are officially tied on paper with Milwaukee and Miami. So I had I had Boston in its own realm, then Milwaukee in its half realm below that, and then Miami Knicks, and then you've got your, Cleveland's and Indiana's right under that. But I think it's safe to say that the Knicks can go toe-to-toe with Milwaukee. And what I mean by that is it's minimum a 6-game series, and I think that that's more than fair. Quickly on Cleveland, they're just absolutely flamethrowing, and honestly, if you haven't been tuning into the Cleveland lately, I know these kind of hyperboles get thrown around a lot. Donovan Mitchell is honestly playing an MVP right now, and it's blowing my mind. I know he has just this habit of just popping off in the middle of the fucking season when everyone else is exhausted and cold and tired of this job. He's doing it again, and it's just absurd. Primarily from the eye test perspective. If you just watch on YouTube some of these highlights of just Mitchell playmaking, drive dishing, wraparound kickouts, just very, very decisive, just a half step in front of everybody else as far as just his athletic, like he just looks like fit as hell, head locked in. Like, anyway, Cleveland's closing in quickly. Mobley and Garland, they recently came back. They're still kind of reintegrating. I wanna feel that out a little bit more before I have a stronger feeling on where they stack up. So I'm gonna keep them still a half step below the Knicks and Milwaukee and Miami, because in addition to waiting to see how they're going to do their stuff, they got clapped by the Knicks last year. So we'll see. Also, the Knicks demolished Toronto today, single tier, but that's okay. Last thing I want to touch on for the Knicks segment is I feel like a really witty thing to be throwing around and talking about on podcasts right now is New York the new Miami? Miami culture, like Heat culture, Knicks culture, I guess. My answer is, I guess I just, the dog culture, the physical defense, whatever, like, sure. But I hope you all realize that, in my opinion, I think the biggest reason that is in fact the case is because you have the same exact issues that Miami has as well. You're such dogs on defense that your offense ends up being on too few of shoulders, and it ends up looking pretty bad. I'm looking at you, Josh Hart, who is just not really being enough of a value add on offense. The Knicks, honestly, I know Brunson is like the mayor of New York City at this point, but DiVincenzo is literally like a top 12 like shooting guard in the league right now. As of 2024, I don't know how this happened, and I wish I had the stats up on this ready to go. I should have, but dude, he's been averaging, I think, like 24, 25 points a night, and just like automatic from the outside as well, especially with this Randall injury and whatever. Obviously, he just got called up, but the dude has just been balling. So I just say that to say, like, I don't know how sustainable that is. Similar with D'Angelo Russell in the late. Like, I have no idea. It's really exciting to see that. But to bring it back to the Miami thing, early on, post Randall injury, and obviously Robinson's been out for a while, but early in the Randall stuff, man, those games were tough, dude, as far as late game offense was concerned. And so to put this back to the level of the trade, all the way up there, it's going to be up to Tibbs now, because while the rabid dog defense stuff is awesome, and that is a deliberate, conscientious vision for the team, I think that the offensive flexibility that Bojan specifically is bringing now, basically it just becomes it's up to Tibbs how he's going to maximize this via the scheme and the matchups and the rotations, all the things I broke that down with. While flexibility is great, you have to have some degree of intentionality of how to maximize that. And I'm just really, really curious. Like, clearly you have DiVincenzo playing really well now. We'll see how OG comes back from injury. We'll see how Randall comes back as well. And yeah, so good luck, Tibbs. Heat culture sounds a lot nicer than Knicks culture, and I don't think you guys want to try to rip that name. I might think about another name if I were you. Super duper last point about the Knicks is shower take about this whole thing. If this ends up really, really panning out here, when you think back to the grand scheme of trades that the Knicks have done, with OG, Bojan, Alec Burks, big three here. If this goes well for them, might carry some weight for the school of thought that believes you don't have to bend over backwards to get a superstar all the time to come over and save you. You look at this roster, just the top 10 guys, feels like a bunch of dudes who just really, really want to win and are not going to ever stop caring and going for it. And they're playing for each other. And these random injuries as well are just galvanizing them together. Like, it would be a great story, truly. And again, with the Donovan Mitchell stuff, and he's from there, and obviously, again, he's clearly playing really well. Blah blah blah. Just really great trades, and not mortgaging the future and whatever. So that to me is the biggest reason I'm rooting for you guys. I'm rooting for you, Knicks. Let's go. Team Chaos. Beat Milwaukee, please. All right. Knicks, done. Second on the list in group take cover. Oklahoma City. Hello. Great to see you again. You guys are what? You guys are half a game behind the T-Wolves now after... no. My bad. Oh, yeah. No, today they got absolutely rocked. Oh, my God, shout out Dallas. I can't wait to talk about Dallas. That was amazing earlier. They're now one game behind Minnesota. They're in that insanely close upper bit, like Big Four, the Western Conference, Minnesota, LA, the Clippers, of course, Denver, and then them. They're all either a half game behind the one seed or one game behind, and then it's a pretty big drop-off. So I think OKC was technically in second before they lost earlier. But anyway, what did they do? They brought in Gordon Hayward. A lot of people might remember him from the Celtics or even before that on Utah. Actually surprised me how kind of long ago he joined the league. Kind of nutty. But they brought in Gordon Hayward, and they sent back to Charlotte Trey Mann. They're like 10th, 11th guard of a team of just too many guards, so really barely even played. Trey Mann, Davis Bertans, and Micic, as well as draft compensation. Of those three guys, Micic was the only one that I think was actually having an impact on the team. He was coming in off the bench. He seemed okay. I mean, he's definitely kind of has that dog out there, and seems to fit in systems like that super well as far as really quick, deliberate passing and all of that. So I think he'd probably be missed the most. Trey Mann just deserved more playing time somewhere else and just literally was not going to get time on the floor. He's too young. Davis is going to be out of the league in about 2 years, maybe next year, honestly. I don't know what his contract is, but he is just screaming Evan Fournier to me, who is now, outcast to Azkaban, or Detroit. And now this is, I don't know what would be the second Azkaban. I don't know. I got to think about that, but Charlotte would be it. We'll just go with Charlotte. So Gordon Hayward, welcome to Oklahoma City, and same approach as Bojan. Also, interestingly enough, very similar players too for both teams. You could almost like flip them a little bit, although Hayward is dramatically less reliable from a health perspective. Hayward's also 6'8". He also splits between small forward, power forward, primarily does small forward. This year was 91% and then 80% last year. That is going to put him alongside of your J-Dubs, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe. OKC is really small, so they might decide to slot him in at that power forward position. There's a very good chance of that, frankly. Because they've been putting Lou Dort also at power forward, as well as Wiggins and Giddey, who also, side note, did everybody know Giddey's like 6'8", except me? I don't know, man. It's so hard to tell these heights, and I'm like cross-referencing between Basketball Reference as well as Cleaning the Glass and a bunch of different stuff. Like, these are some big dudes, and it's just crazy to me. I need to go to more games or move to a city with a team. So power forward, he'd be going neck and neck with Josh Giddey, Dort, or Wiggins. Small forward, which he heavily plays, primarily J-Dub, Dort, and Joe. I'm going to come out and say it off the top. Giddey is playing himself off the fucking court, and the worse that he plays, the more likely it becomes Hayward slots in at that 4, which I think is the vision already, especially with J-Dub being obviously as great as he is. But I'm just thinking from a health perspective. I don't know. Hopefully Hayward can dig it. Cool. So availability, always the biggest thing with Hayward. I feel like the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is that absolutely insane injury at the opening of the 2018 season. If you're really into gruesome real life injury footage, go look that up. You might vomit, but it was literally on opening day, I think 5 minutes into the game, he had one of the most gruesome live injuries I've ever seen in my life, and it altered the trajectory of his entire career and honestly the entire trajectory of that Celtics team as well. But coming back to today, 2024 availability, so he's played only 25 out of 51 games. He started all 25 for Charlotte, makes sense. He's averaged 32 minutes a game in all those 25 games. This year, he is putting up 14, just under 5 rebounds, and then 4.5 assists. He is shooting 36% from 3, shooting 77% from the free throw line. That's all right. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, again, you'll see. I mean, once I get into the experience part of whatever, it's clearly not even close to how he was playing before that horrible injury. But he's definitely a guy that's pretty reliable in that sense. Not. I mean, I just feel like his ceiling is pretty capped. Like, he's not really gonna pop off and start like breathing fire. But again, big frame. Great passer. He's gonna fit in really well. So the experience piece I really wanted to highlight for Hayward specifically. One of the biggest things you heard about Oklahoma City in terms of what they needed to work on through the trade deadline going into this postseason is before Hayward joined the team, Oklahoma City was the second youngest team in the league, and they are essentially tied for first place in the Western Conference. I'm going to say that again. Before getting Gordon Hayward on their team, they were the second youngest team in the league in a 4-way tie for first place in the insane Western Conference. If Mark Dagnall doesn't get Coach of the Year, I'm going to fucking kill somebody. Awesome. So they needed experience. Hayward is 33 years old. He's going to be turning 34 soon, I think this summer. So he's just actually an adult, which is just a good presence to have, I would think. And really quick rundown on really what he brings experience-wise, specifically in the postseason. So went to the first round of the Western Conference playoffs in 2012 on Utah. When he had his start, he was only 21 years old. They got swept by that insanely good San Antonio Spurs team, and lead up to the 2014 chip that they got. He only put up like 7 3-and-3 in 31 minutes a game. He's, again, 21 years old, barely counts. And then in 2017, also with Utah, he went to the Western Conference semifinals, where, again, this is 5 years later, so he was 26. He averaged in the Western Conference, the second round of the playoffs, against the Golden State Warriors that were coming off of their, 72-win season, getting upset by LeBron in Game 7 in 2016. They'd already won in 2015. So they were just a locked in, right? They were still world beaters out for revenge. And Gordon Hayward averaged 25, 4-and-4 in 39 minutes a game. Granted, they were swept, so it's only 4 games, but That's what that dude was doing against the 2017 Warriors that would go on, of course, to win their second title that year. So that matters to me. That's like really solid. And then you got 2018, literally opening game on like October, whatever fucking date it is. In first 5 minutes, he had the most gruesome injury. Him and Paul George and Kevin Ware, they're all honestly kind of similar place there. Don't look at it. 2019, so he misses obviously the entire season, has to reconfigure and restructure his entire fucking leg. 2019, he is now on Boston, makes it to the Eastern Conference semifinals, the second round, where he only averaged 7, 3, and 3 in 28 minutes, and they lost in 5 to Milwaukee. Milwaukee in 2019, this is Giannis superstar time. He's just an absolute animal, and nobody knew what to do with the Greek Shaq. So they lost 2019. And then in 2020, also with Boston still, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, of course, where he averaged 11, 4, and 3 in 31 minutes a game, where they lost in 6 to Miami. And that was in the bubble, where we had Bubble Jimmy averaging like 41 points a night and like 41 free throws a night. Insane run as well in that year. But just to paint that picture for you, I think like the closest you can see, and just the way people talk about Gordon Hayward, the dude averaged 25 against the Golden State Warriors in the second round of the playoffs in 2017. And then you fast forward to 2020 post his injury, and he's averaging 11, 4, and 3, 11 points a game. That's sad, man. I really feel for that guy. But anyway, it's 2024 now. So to the analysis. I touched on this already, hinted at this. So similar to Bojan, has that small forward, power forward flexibility. He's going to be coming in if Giddey keeps missing shots. I think it's going to be that simple. And just foreshadowing or whatever to this Dallas game from today. It was the first game that we had PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford on the Dallas team. It was honestly cringy watching how open they were leaving Giddey, and the fact that he was absolutely bricking shot after shot after shot. So I say that to say, even though Gordon's primarily played small forward his entire career, there is a very good chance on this very small OKC team that he gets slotted into that 4, as well as crunch time, if Giddey's not making shots, which honestly, that just might be a good idea for OKC, is if they let Giddey come in off the bench and whatnot, and then have Hayward in a spot. I don't know. Touched on this too. I think Gordon's innate game is going to mesh really well. Gordon's always seemed to like the kind of style that OKC is played with this year. It's a ton of drive and kick, setting up movement teammates who are cutting, slashing, whatever. He, especially post-injury, seems to really be okay with kind of settling on these turnarounds and whatever, as long as he gets some space in the mid-range. I didn't look up his numbers in terms of his shooting frequency in different spots. I should have done that, but just from the eye test, that's what it seems like he really likes a lot. I also think 4.6 assists this year on Charlotte matters. Like, that's solid. I'd also say that driving kick game is good for his durability, if he's not having to just jump, shoot, and self-create all the time. I just think that's a really good thing to have. And I just think his latent value and gravity is also just helpful to Shea. Obviously, if he can hit shots and Giddey can't, and, you just naturally pull defenses, strain them and space them out more. That's going to help Shea. I mean, Shea leads the league in drives to the basket, and, I just think there's going to be synergy there. I also touched on the maturity and experience part. I know I talked about not only his, previous production levels, But what I really liked about this trend in terms of his experience is he's gotten cockslapped to really, really good teams, which I don't know. This could just be me over engineering this idea, but like he lost to the 2012 Spurs. He lost to the 2017 Golden State Warriors, and then he lost to the 2020 Miami Heat, who made the finals. And weren't even that talented, and it was just breaking everybody's brain in the bubble, right? Obviously, they got collaborated by the Lakers, but like in order to do that, like that was an insane run as well. Like if for any other reason than just basically I lost to a Spoelstra team at a very high level and whatever. So maybe a phantom plus, but not only is he just older than the entire team, he's like seen really fucking good teams at really high levels, and I think that that's cool and helpful. Also shower thought take is I could see him being a really great mentor for J-Dub specifically. I know J-Dub is like 6'6", so like not necessarily the same exact frame, but I keep feeling like I've been trying to think about this actually, who J-Dub reminds me of. Gordon Hayward is not that far from it, man. A lot of ferocity, really close to the basket, good solid shooting, good vision, great guard skills, like fundamentals, whatever, and a pretty big athletic frame. Oladipo, weirdly enough, like a young pre-injury as well. Oladipo comes to mind. He's a bit closer to that frame side. But anyway, I just think their games are kind of similar. So I just like that. I did want to, the last point as well would just be the actual trade itself. So I would give it like an A, not even not A minus, not A plus, but A or A plus value on the trade. Like Trey Mann was not going to play ever. Bertans is awful. Micic, solid, steady, but again, you look at what you're bringing in with. I think it's more than outweighed by Hayward being in there, even if Hayward can only play, like 29 minutes, 26 minutes a night or something. I don't know. So Sam Presti, management, great work. But now I got to get to the dark side here. And I wouldn't have even included this in the podcast had I not had so much shit going on and then, had to wait until after their game today against Dallas earlier. And we're going to get to Dallas in the next group. Don't worry. You really, really saw Oklahoma City's weakness in their size. And I know that they just signed, I think, buyout guy Bismack Biyombo as well. But I think that game specifically with, big, strong Daniel Gafford at the 5, big, strong PJ Washington at the 4, Derrick Jones, like long, lanky Derrick Jones Jr. at the, Oklahoma City got pantsed. And granted, Biyombo nor Hayward made that game. And those are, those guys, obviously they have size. I just wanted to put a soft push out there. Like a lot of people really wanted Oklahoma City to get bigger. Obviously, they assumed they would be able to plug that hole in the buyout market with a guy like Biyombo. And they had their sights set on Gordon. But I don't know, man. That was real tough, especially when Case and Wallace is the only reason you're within 15 points throughout 2.5 quarters before you went down 30+ points to Dallas. Love Wallace, love Case and Wallace, incredible rookie, great guy, great player, but he is maybe 6'1", and he actually looks like he could be 16 years old. So keep that in mind. Previously, Oklahoma City has really leaned on their youth and their legs and their motor and their very quick and deliberate passing to overcome the fact that they're not that tall. All I'm trying to say here is I just think their margin of error is really small. And even with a MVP caliber guy, tip of the spear and Shea, I really hope Hayward is healthy for you guys. Let me just put that there, because even with the Giddey stuff, even if he was hitting a normal clip, man, like that just looked tough. So that is that. Last point on Oklahoma City overall is I don't know. I was just tuning in right before I started recording this to the New Orleans and Portland game. A part of me wishes they went for Jeremy Grant instead of Gordon Hayward. I know Grant's been outspoken about not wanting to leave Portland. It seems like he's a big-time chiller and fucking does, like, tarot card readings now and fucking smokes sage with Kyrie. I don't know. He seems to be loving Portland. Let me just put it like that. And I think he said, like, hey, I'm not in a rush to get out of here, whatever. Good for him, honestly. Syracuse man, close to home. I respect him a lot. I just think in terms of all-around production and everything else, like, you know, it just kind of hit me watching that game. I'm like, Jeremy Grant probably could have been that key for them. Anyway, that is all for OKC and their new most likely power forward, Gordon Hayward. All right, coming up, we have Group 2, which I have called About Damn Time. Stay tuned. Welcome back. All right, Group 2, About Damn Time. First group up, the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I'm going to try my absolute best not to gush all over these guys, especially after their game today, or debut, against Oklahoma City earlier. Oh my God, I tweeted like 6 times after the game, all my different takes about it. It was honestly incredible. But here's the rundown. So here's what they did on trade deadline day. So they brought in this guy named P.J. Washington Jr. from Charlotte, like he was Gordon Hayward's teammate, and in exchange sent back Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a 2027 first-round pick with light protection. PJ is a power forward guy. He is known as a very solid three-point shooter, very, very athletic. Power forward. I looked at his position data, historical data, and his first couple seasons. I mean, granted, he's only been with Charlotte, but he actually played a bit of center when he first came in there. I don't know if that's just bad management, but just trying to paint the picture here. Pretty big guy. I mean, he's only like 6'7", 6'8", but very, very strong, very, very athletic, and again, can shoot, space the floor. Makes sense for Dallas, right? Second guy, Daniel Gafford. Soft spot in my heart as a previous resident of Washington, D.C. for about 2.5 years. Gafford's just been a dog, and I've just loved, like, it's one of the very few, it's probably this, he's just one of the very few glimmers of hope and bright lights, like a light on that unbelievably terribly managed Washington team. So they bring him in and then send back out Rashawn Holmes as well as draft compensation. And Gafford is a 300% center, only a center, insane athlete, vertical threat, loves to scream after he dunks, will jam the fuck out of the ball all over your head and scream at you afterwards. He's just an absolute dog. He's from Arkansas, went to Arkansas. I love that man. I'm super, super happy he's getting a chance on a contending team now. Love it. All right. So we are going to start with PJ because, in my opinion, he is the thread. He represents the threading of the needle that Dallas is doing. So actually, before I go into the same approach here, the position, availability, performance, whatever, this really came out of today's game after seeing these guys debut, and I tweeted about it a bunch. But PJ Washington representing, it's basically a shift in strategy almost from Dallas, which one game in on an undersized OKC team acknowledged, so I'm trying to reel in my excitement. But the shift in strategy seems to be on Dallas's end by bringing these guys in is they've historically been so much of an offensively leaning team with as close to a 5-out offense as you can almost get with Luka small ball and let Luka basically do a Harden thing and, set everyone up or beat whoever's guarding him. The shift now is closer to equilibrium from offense and defense. So they obviously tanked at the end of last year and ended up getting Lively out of it from Duke, who is a beast. He's like 7'1", and talk about athleticism at freak dimensions. He's incredible as their center, and so he'll definitely be starting over Gafford, as he should. But they bring in Lively over the summer when they draft him. And then now they bring in PJ Washington, who is like this stretch 4, can shoot from the outside, hyper athletic as well, good defensive indicators. And then they also bring in Daniel Gafford, which is another, similar to Lively, another very strong, like vertical lob threat, rim pressure guy, where when he rolls, you're not gonna let that happen. Like, you are going to be very, very mindful of trying to get in his way and not allow that pass to him. Which again, with Luka, he's one of the best lob throwers in the league. I mean, it's like him and Trae Young basically. So I just say that to say it really manifested in the game earlier that shift in strategy is not only refreshing, but I think it's deeper than that. I think it might be the natural counter to this age of pace and space where you have the Clippers, basically, who should be fucking scared now of Dallas, where, I mean, they have air quote size, but Ivica Zubac is not going to stop Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively from jamming it on his fucking head. I'm going to tell you that right now. Plumlee, same, or any sort of small, I know they have PJ Tucker too. When you have to defend a lob threat that's significant, and then not to mention you have a stretch 4 that has the length that PJ Washington has on the defensive end that can also, again, space and shoot. I really think that he is the key here, is Washington. And I have his numbers or whatever, so I'll get into that. But I just want to talk about that shift in strategy a little bit that I noticed earlier that I just found very, very interesting. I think it puts Dallas closer to the Lakers than the Clippers now, which I think is ultimately going to serve them well. It's really them, Minnesota, and the Lakers now. And then virtually every other team at the top, Domantas Sabonis is not going to stop Daniel Gafford jamming it on your fucking head. Let's just leave it there. All right, so let's get into some numbers now quickly. PJ Washington, going to start with him. He's 6'8". His hometown's Dallas, actually. I didn't know that until the game earlier. Just thought that was interesting. He was born and grew up in Dallas, and now he's just got traded there last week. 2024, so he actually split 60-40, so 60% played the 4, 40% played center. Again, he's 6'8", so you think of Bam in Miami, this kind of build, dude, which is cool. He's definitely smaller than Bam and definitely quicker and lighter or whatever, but great body, great build. 2023, so last season he played power forward 96% of the time. 2022, it was an even split, power forward and center. So just showing you this dude's range, and you can tell what I mean when I say the defensive kind of shift here. So interesting. Who on Dallas would he be kind of playing alongside of? I think he's mainly going to be playing that 4 or power forward position. You know, Lively and Gafford are so true blue, like pure centers, that I think he's going to be playing the 4 most of the time. And so that'll put him and Maxi Kleba kind of in and out, you know, depending on who they're playing against. They also have Derek Jones Jr., who is essentially as like Brandon Ingram's build, where it's just length and arms, and they're also tall-ish, but they're just long, like KCP and shit like that. So Derek Jones can kind of shift between 3 and 4 a little bit easier. And he, like they had a lineup earlier today. You know, I'm just writing this shit down like during the game right here in my notebook. It's like to close out the first quarter, for example, they had Luka, Tim Hardaway, Derek Jones Jr., PJ Washington, and Daniel Gafford. And they just swallowed the Thunder up. I'm assuming Chet was on there too, and Chet's 7-1 or whatever. Dude, I mean, Chet's a twig, and that is what it is. He's very, very skilled, very high IQ player, but the dude was not getting through like Gafford and, you know, the entire team for the Oklahoma City, unfortunately. Like, PJ's long and big, Gafford's big, Derek Jones Jr. is long, even Tim Hardaway's like kind of long. Like, they look good, man. I was low-key getting like Minnesota flashbacks. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. Like, when they had Jaden and Ant and whatever on the wings, like, dude, these are some long motherfuckers now in Dallas. So PJ will be playing the 4, so that, yeah, Maxey, Derek Jones, we'll see. I think there's a really good chance he's going to start at the 4. I could actually see that lineup I just called out earlier ultimately being their playoff rotation, aside from Tim Hardaway. I think everybody's saying Tim Hardaway's leading the 6th Man of the Year race this year. So it's probably going to be Luka, Kyrie, Derek Jones Jr., PJ Washington, Derek Lively. That's really fucking good, guys. I'm not kidding. I like that. I like the ring of that a lot. This past season, he's also been super valuable. He's played 44 out of 51 games. He's only started 17, though. That's because Miles Bridges was their 4. And honestly, Bridges is raw as fuck on the court. It's really, really depressing that he has his own personal issues and is kind of wearing a scarlet letter now, and no team is going to want to trade for him. But I think it was 2 nights ago now, he had like 45 points. Against a good team. They definitely lost, but he dropped like 45 points on like 67% shooting, which is fucking nuts. So anyway, he was going to start over PJ Washington, and I think he's like 4 years older or something, whatever. So PJ hasn't started a ton this year, but when he has played, he's averaged 29 minutes a game. How's he been doing? He has been averaging in 29 minutes, 14, 5, and 2. He's shooting only 32% from 3 on 5.5 attempts per game, only shooting 74% free throws. 2023 shot 35% from 3. 2022, 37% from 3. 2021, 39% from 3 on 4.5 attempts. So one fewer attempt 3 years ago when he was shooting 40% than today when he's shooting 32%. And then 2020, his first year, he shot 37% with 4.3 attempts. So basically, the same. So peak percentage-wise in 2021, I looked this up. They had a little bit better guard presence, like 4 years ago now. So basically what I'm trying to get to here is I think that Luka's going to help the quality of his shots be better. And he's already proven with some better looks that he can really shoot the fucking ball. And so I really think that his only 32, I think he's going to end up shooting pretty well. I think that unfortunately, a lot of that comes down on Charlotte not being able to give him some better looks. Shot distribution, I thought this was interesting. So for this year, he is shooting at the rim 29% of the time. That puts him in only the 18th percentile compared to other power forwards in the league. And then his accuracy is 68%, which is only 41st percentile. So that's like not great at the rim. I have here mediocre. So interesting for, again, a dude who is pretty big and played center in the past. I was surprised to see that. Mid-range, he's like 56% in frequency and 51st% in accuracy. So super mid at mid. And then from three. So he shoots 45% of his overall shots from three, which is the 81st percentile. And then, this year he's shooting like 33%, which is only the 35th percentile in accuracy. So that's why I say, is it a slump? How is his percentage going down and down? My thoughts, LaMelo Ball needs to get on the fucking court. I'm starting to get annoyed, I'm sorry, at this whole LaMelo Ball bullshit. And honestly, I literally late as fuck last night was like looking through videos of his injury, his most recent ankle injury, and it doesn't look great. But I'm still just coming away. Like, it's not like I'm even a Charlotte fan and I'm like constantly on top of this shit, but I was just looking back at their whole like, shot quality and who's the point guard, like how good is PJ? Like, actually, I'm trying to do the research for you guys. And it like, LaMelo just never plays, and it's, like, not good. Not to mention the fact that his older brother Lonzo is effectively out of the league by some, like, latent, like, I don't know, man. I'm not trying to put bad judo, whatever, on this dude, but LaMelo hasn't played since, like, December 2023, and it's always, like, a lower body thing, and he kind of does a bunch of flashy fucking shit all the time, and also Charlotte, oh, my God, dude. Ugh, I just was reading up. I know Book Knight got waived too at this past trade deadline too, and he was a really young guy that showed some promise early on. But then, he got arrested too. I didn't know this. Like, right before the start of the season, he was like in a car with a fucking firearm, and the cops found him, and he freaked out apparently, and then like hit like 2 different cop cars before the cops calmed him down. And I don't know what the fuck is going on in Charlotte, man, but oh my God. Honestly, if anything, I'm just really glad we got our boy PJ out of there. I was like, how many of their like top 10 players haven't been arrested? I think Gordon Hayward was one of the few. All right, anyway. Gafford, 6'11". So, really interesting as well. I was surprised to learn he's only 25 years old. He looks like he could be 35 years old. I don't even know if that's like a diss. The dude is scary. I'm like, you see the way that dude moves and his size and his I think Basketball Reference has his nickname as a landlord, which I need to double click into. I think this is a fucking hilarious nickname. But again, he's like 25. Just blew my mind. So like I said, he is going to be switching off with Lively. Dallas also has Powell. Sad side story, but I don't think Powell is going to make it very, very long here on the Dallas team. So something to be interested to keep tracks of. He barely gets paid. I think he's only making like $4 million a year, which is less than Lively's making. Obviously, he got traded, like second in the draft or whatever. Excuse me. So anyway, I already talked about the staggering there. Gafford's availability, solid 45 games played this year out of 51. He started every single one of those games. He's played 26 and a half minutes in each one. Performance, his overall differential is plus 7.7, which is 85th percentile in the league. On offense, specifically, he's putting up 11, 8, and 2. His effective field goal percentage is 69%, which is like something like third or fourth in the entire league. Like, if he gets the ball, he puts it fucking in the basket. That just means this dude is living at the rim, and he is living on finishing through contact. Like, this dude is strong, and I said like 40 times during the game earlier, he's a beast. Just watch this dude fucking play. You wouldn't have seen him because Washington is so ass, but like this dude's going to get a lot of pub really quick. 11, 8, and 2 on 7 field goal attempts a game. Offensive points per possession, so offensive differential, he is plus 4.9, which is 84th percentile in the league. And And then defense, his plus minus is minus 2.8, meaning his opponents shoot, 2.8 fewer points when he's on the floor, which is 74th percentile. So that would mathematically result in his overall differential being plus 7.7, which is 85th percentile. So basically, he's really good. He's really fucking good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually kind of amazed that Washington gave him up, for so little. I don't even know how many minutes Rashawn Holmes has even played. It was a surprising trade, honestly. Washington, I'm not impressed on your end, but fuck it. I mean, good for the guy and good for Dallas. So, takeaways. We have PJ, who is a proven shooter. In previous years, shot up to 40% before. Currently, that has slumped quite a bit, and I just think Luka's going to help him get back into form. I kind of attribute a lot of that slumpage to the lack of guards and available guards, if I may. Sorry, LaMelo again. To help the quality of those looks, and I think Luka's going to help him with that. He's going to be playing alongside of other power forwards like Maxey and Derek Jones. Derek Jones has never shot above 34% from behind the arc in a single season before. He's a very useful defender, though, and I can definitely see Derek Jones slotting into that small forward a lot more as they go along. So then it becomes PJ and Maxey. Maxey's dealing with some weird health things. So he's only played 17 games this season out of 51, and he's only started 6. Obviously, Grant Williams was supposed to be that guy. He was like their biggest offseason acquisition last summer, and he is now in Charlotte. Sad day for Grant. I really hope you find yourself a good place, man. Check out Sacramento for me and turn into a Draymond Green or something. Get better at passing. Cool. Gafford. I mean, he's a proven starter, and I think with their team, he's an overqualified backup for Derek Lively. Lively's played in 36 of their 51 games, and he's started 35 of them. His differential is plus 8.6, which is the 87th percentile. Gafford, if you remember, is 7.7. Lively is 8.6. On offense, Lively is plus 4.6, 82nd percentile. Defense is minus 4. Opponents shoot 4 points fewer, 80th percentile. And then you have Powell kind of as your ultra last line of defense. So overall, especially after their earlier game against OKC today, Dallas has a lot of flexibility at power forward and center. I love how you can intermingle, mix and match these guys, and the stronger rim pressure, vertical lob threat between Lively and Gafford, I think, are going to be great, straining the defenses. And then you introduce PJ, and hopefully Derek Jones can, keep it moving as far as his three-point percentage. Both him and PJ, honestly. I just think this is like an incredible upgrade, honestly, for a team that's needed more weapons, essentially, to deal to Luka. Basically, the second best passer in the league. Awesome. So, who's going to stop them in the West is the last thing I want to talk about Dallas with. Is I think I said in my tweet, it's really Minnesota and the Lakers are the only two teams in the Western Conference I can see doing it, and then I think specifically like the Clippers, Phoenix, and Sac, they're going to have some trouble, picking their poison, playing the Mavericks as far as, this a lot of rim pressure, vertical threat, and then you've got some spacers now over there. So really well played, Dallas, and it looked incredible today earlier against OKC. Again, we'll see OKC at full strength, but great start so far. All right. So that is Dallas right there. Coming up, we have our last team in this second group. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So the last team I want to cover today who made a trade before the deadline inside of the About Damn Time group is none other than the Minnesota Timberwolves. They brought in Monte Morris from Detroit as well, and they sent back out Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a second-round pick. I'll be honest with you, that seems to me like a pretty solid haul, and I think Detroit did a good job negotiating, and I'll explain why. So, Monte, he is 6'3", true blue point guard. He is going to be coming in backup for Mike Conley, of course, the Sage himself. As far as availability goes, this is my first kind of concern. This year, he's literally only played 6 games out of like 50. He suffered a really serious right quad injury in the preseason, apparently, and literally came back like a few weeks ago just to get traded, which is crazy. And so you have to go back 2 years to get a sense of, what he's actually capable of. So 2023 season, he played 62 games, started 61. Again, this is in Detroit. And he averaged 10, 4, and 5. He shot 38% from 3. 83% from free throws, 27 minutes a game. 2022, he played 75 games and started 74. Very, very durable. And then I think, so his rookie season was 2018, I think. And I think it was either that year or I think it was his second year. He literally played all 82 games, which just never happens. So I just want to throw that out there. That's like an incredible feat. But, fast forward to this year, this is by far the most amount of time he's missed in a single season. So hopefully that's all nice and fixed now and he's ready to roll. So he's 28 years old, which I'll be honest with everyone here, I actually thought he was older than that. That was kind of surprising to me. I know he was on Denver it just felt like he was on Denver for like a lifetime, but that's cool. So his experience that he's bringing, because we all know Minnesota needs more adults in the rooms, aka the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter room. He went to the Western Conference Finals once, where he lost to the Lakers in 2020. That would have been in the bubble. He went to the Western Conference semis, or the second round, 3 times with Denver. And then has went to the Western Conference, like the first round of the playoffs in the Western Conference, 4 times. So he's had like 4 runs in the playoffs in the Western Conference, and then got to the finals once. Obviously lost to the Lakers in the bubble, which is kind of weird. So solid experience, and he's always been kind of the backup for them and whatnot. So pretty good. My takeaways here is he's kind of just Conley's little stepbrother. He never averages more than a turnover a game for an entire season in his career. No real bad shots. I mean, his field goal percentage is solid. You think of like a Tyus Jones, basically, back when he was with Memphis, like kind of like that, which feels solid, knows how to take care of the ball, which is all like 89% of what Minnesota fucking needs throughout these games. So the durability stuff is really interesting. He's averaged 27 to 29 minutes per game the past 2 seasons, and then assuming full recovery from this seemingly very serious quad injury, hopefully he's able to have a full recovery. And I think what's important is, like, I know the adult stuff and the maturity stuff is relevant, but my gut says that this could be good for Ant as well. With Conley being, I guess, as old as he kind of is, like, I don't know. I can see Monte, having a pretty good impact. So basically, I know Ant is technically listed as a point guard or a combo guard or whatever. I like Ant going downhill and getting plays and actions run for him and getting said intake passes on time, on target, and doing that. But the initial initiation, wow, yeah, I said that, is not coming from him. When he is self-initiating, honestly, it's not looking great, guys. I'm not going to lie. I'm mostly talking about end of games. By and large, he's not that bad, but that dude gets deer in the headlights real quick. Granted, he's like 23 or something absurd. So I'm not necessarily persecuting him. It's just it's just a fact. So let's run some plays for our superstar and like stop letting him take bad shots and walk the fucking ball up and brick these shots. It's really fucking sad. Sorry. Also, don't think Minnesota planned to use either of the guys that they sent out in the trade. Shout out Troy Brown Jr. I always kind of liked his game. Definitely was never going to get minutes on this team as well as the Lakers. I don't really know why. Shake Milton, I know, was over in Philly and also was not really involved too much. So I don't know. Detroit's just kind of interesting now. I'm not going to lie. They got Grimes, they got Troy Brown, they got some pieces. Wave Killian Hayes, like I have no idea, bro. I have no idea what Detroit's doing. I just like their assets, so cool. I don't think this is going to be a world-beating thing, but I think that they got the guy they wanted. They probably wanted Tyus Jones more, but I think Monte is a very, very close equivalent. So, while I don't think he has, he's not the same number of just raw years as Mike Conley. I think specifically the fact that he's gone to the finals as well as 3 semifinals matters, considering Minnesota lost last year in the first round and apparently gave Denver, the then soon-to-be champions, the hardest time of their entire cakewalk to a title. I just think he's a good steadier. So I'm a fan of that one. Don't think the pieces going out were going to play much anyway. So that is it. All right. I told myself I was going to keep this shorter, so I'm going to hold true to that, guys. I know the last one was absurd, but really, really appreciate you guys clocking back in. Hopefully I can get this video uploaded as well. If you want to follow the channel, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Think Shank, and you can email us at thethinkshank@gmail.com. Once again, my name is Skyler. I am still going to be your boy here for NBA stuff over here at Think Shank, and you can find me on Twitter at Reinhardt Skyler and Instagram at Skyler Sam Reinhardt. And once again, thank you all for tuning in, and we're going to keep figuring out this video stuff, but I'm really, really excited, and I really, really appreciate everyone coming out. All right, until next time.